Herb. Herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything. Herb.
Welcome to Eugene Cannabis TV. You made the trip, and here we are coming into the summer. The weather's beautiful, the birds are chirping, and people are planting gardens.
Yep, here comes the hay fever.
Yeah, that's right.
Welcome to Willamette Valley.
Yeah, the Valley of the Sick. Yeah, some quick show notes. We had our first Emerald Empire Hemp Fest volunteer meeting in the park. When the weather turns nice, we start meeting at the park, and the clouds were threatening and it rained that morning, but it turned out really nice, so we had a good time, good turnout. Got a lot of people signed up, and thanks to our friend Peggy, our Munchies goddess, came by and brought some food for us to pork out on. And so if you ever get a chance, you're over there by Royal and Highway 99, stop in at Porky's and say hi to Peggy. Peggy's our Munchies goddess, and she's a sweetheart. And also come to the meetings. Our meetings are the third Saturday of every month. And then now we're actually every other week, but we're meeting at the park at 4:20, so get a hold of us to find out the meeting times. Willamette Valley normal meetings are now meeting at the greener side. Our friends have let us use their one of their rooms there. Another great group, the greener side at 1601C Oak Street. So stop in there. The greener side at 1601, excuse me, they're not at 1601C, that's where the meeting is, but they're at 1601A, I believe, if I remember correctly. But anyway, 1601, and great facility and good people. Check it out. Oregon Normal chapter has been reinstated. For some reason, they kind of went away for a while, but they're back. And I meant to put down the meeting information, and then I didn't get that far. So they got a meeting coming up. You can go check it out at the OregonNormal.org website. And
that's the Portland chapter.
That's
right?
the Portland chapter, correct? Yeah, that's the Portland chapter calls themselves Oregon Normal. You bet. There's currently three chapters in the state of Oregon. We got Southern Oregon Normal, Willamette Valley Normal, and Oregon Normal. So that's the thing about the show notes. And so we wanted to talk about the bills that are going through the Congress right now. Not Congress, legislature, state legislature. Mm-hmm. We've got a lot of good ones, and a lot of them actually have some traction. We have some hope. The first one is 281, SB 281, and that will add PTSD condition to the Oregon Cannabis Tax Act. And that's badly needed. We mostly think of veterans. There's a lot of other people besides veterans that suffer from PTSD, but veterans are a big part of that. And
yeah, especially now because they've been, throwing that PTSD label on veterans, and basically giving them a chemical cocktail of really unknown drugs, basically, antidepressant, bipolar, things that are not meant to be taken in concert with others. And we've seen the results all around basis in this country of, we've just asked too much for our veterans. We're giving them drugs that really do not do any good. I've been down that road, and I can't imagine giving somebody one of those serotonin drugs, and which allows you to dream vividly. I mean, that's the last thing a veteran needs, is to close his eyes at night and dream in Technicolor all night long for that nightmare. Yeah. Exactly. It just doesn't make any sense at all. Anybody who smokes on a regular basis knows that your dreaming, especially your nightmares, tend to fade when you're using cannabis. So,
well, in fact, I remember you telling me that you have nightmares if you don't have your cannabis.
Oh yeah, so. Absolutely. And I remember the very short period of time I took Paxil because I wanted to play the game. I had the most vivid dreams I've ever experienced in my life. I was full on Technicolor, I'd wake up the next morning, I didn't even know what state I was in.
Wow.
This was better than the cannabis, and then, so I stopped it after a couple days because it was just, I knew it was bad.
So that's SB 281. They want you to call your legislatures and try to get them behind that. It has passed the House committees and is going to the House floor for its final vote.
Right.
And it passes there, then it goes to the governor for signature. So we have high hopes on that one.
And don't forget to bother Kitzhaber too. He's going to be part of this process.
Oh, yeah.
If it does get through on a House vote, passes that, it's going to go to his desk. And he has not been a very strong supporter of this, which is surprising considering he's a doctor. So we need to remind him of, you know, his own creed that he took many years ago, and to do the right thing, not to be expedient and worry about, you know, playing politics with people's lives. I mean, that's got to stop.
He's also the clown that signed the recriminalization bill, the recriminalized possession of less than an ounce back in the late 90s. So,
well, he was also that character that back in the days they made it, you know, basically a civil infraction if you had under an ounce. But the cravat with that is that you would automatically, if you got a ticket, no matter where you were, you didn't have to be in your car. You could be sitting in a park making cookies like I was. But you lose your driver's license for 6 months. There's no hardship permit. There's no way around that, even though you had nothing to do with your car. And so there's a Senate bill that came along here during this latest round of activity in Salem. It's Senate Bill 82. And this reduces the penalty, but it also removes the 6-month license suspension if you get caught with under an ounce of marijuana. So that's finally, you know, they're undoing after almost 14 years. You know, really, I think a nasty bit of legislation. You know, you can get a DUI, you can be drunk many times, but you can still get a hardship permit. And here you are smoking in a park, get a ticket, think you're okay, but you just lost your license.
and you can't get the driving.
Yeah, no hardship permit.
No hardship permit.
So if you're a carpenter like I was, you can't go hauling your bus on a you know, your tools on a bus.
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous.
So that's SB 82, and we definitely want that one passed. We skipped over SB 40, reduces the penalty, reduces possession to a Class C felony, reduces unlawful manufacture of marijuana to Class B felony. So again, that's downgrading the penalties, which is a good thing. And then HB 3460, this has gotten a lot of press, a lot of attention, directs Oregon Health Authority to establish registration system for medical marijuana facilities for transferring usable marijuana from registry identification. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Basically, it's for create dispensaries.
Absolutely. It provides for safe access for OMMP patients, which is badly needed. Right now, you better know how to grow your own. You better know how to just take care of everything. A lot of people don't know how to do this. A lot of people have specific needs that cannot be addressed on the way the current system is set up. So this is another one of those bills you need to kind of ring up your representative, to get a hold of Kitzhaber, or anybody you can think of, people that you work with, people that are anywhere in your social circle. You know, we need to get active. We open the door, but we need to walk through it. And unfortunately, we can't do that without the help of our representatives and elected officials. So that's up to us. We can't, you know, just hope for the best anymore.
That's right. And then last but not least, we have HB 3371, another one that's gotten a lot of attention. This is relating to the control, regulation, and taxation of cannabis. Provides for regulation of production, processing, and sale of marijuana and marijuana-infused products. So in other words, legalization initiative, or not initiative, but a bill. So we don't expect that to pass, but we're not sure. We're still waiting to see what's going to happen. But the thing is, if it doesn't pass, we're coming up with initiatives. 2014, they're already talking about it. We're going to run 2 initiatives. One will be another version of OCTA. The second will be a constitutional amendment on the right to privacy. I understand. Well,
hopefully it won't be like what they did in Washington, which just exempts the use. You know, Washington has legal marijuana, but by definition it just exempts the use, provided you buy from a state liquor store or a state marijuana store.
Which aren't set up yet.
Maybe March of next year. Maybe. No, they're saying they're going to, but they're going to close down the dispensaries first because competition's bad for business, they're saying.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
For some reason, the liquor board, which is going to be renamed, they're going to be calling it the Washington Cannabis Board, so that should be interesting.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so anyway, that's what's going on in Washington. We're also watching Colorado, and we'll see how things go on both states.
Well, sadly, right now, the DEA and the U.S. Attorney are very busy in Washington right now. They are running roughshod in Spokane, disallowing a farmer's market that has been very successful in Seattle and Tacoma, but they're not going to allow that to happen in Spokane. They've gone after about roughly 24 dispensaries in King County So this is the first time the feds have been showing their ugly face there, and
Oh boy, yeah. but
happy
there-
not to, wish they weren't there.
Goes on and on. Okay, we'll wrap up and we'll be right back. Okay, we got Jim Grieg, the co-producer of this event. It's half his fault. So Jim Grieg here, we've got, he's a board member of Voter Power Foundation, organizers for the Americans for Safe Access. There you go, Jim. Hello, cannabis lovers. Thanks for coming out today. I know this takes you to your first Global Cannabis March. This is the 13th one they've had. They started in New York City. They're held at 12 noon in time zones around the world. So as it gets later, we're all in solidarity here, all for cannabis legalization. And we've had some great speakers out here today. I want to dovetail on Carrie's speech there. The ACLU, Dave Fidenki, has been instrumental in our next legalization bill. And if you're following the news on our legalization bill, it's probably going to get referred to the voters. So just like we did with Dwight Holton, we stood up and beat him, brought Ellen into office. We're going to all need to come together in either 14 or 16 and work towards legalization. Sam was telling you a little bit about a safe access bill, House Bill 3371. It's cleared the House. It's moving right along. Finally, patients are going to get safe access, and legalization is next. So, welcome to the second half of Eugene Cannabis TV, and I forgot to introduce myself. I had Mike, who was on the last segment. That's our friend Mike, and I'm DanK, and we got Eric here next to me on this segment. We've got some things we wanted to talk to you about. Quickly, I wanted to cover another local event that's coming up May 30th through June 3rd. This is the Mercy's annual Wake and Bake. It's a camp over and pancake breakfast. It'll be held in Vernonia, Oregon, which is kind of comical because that's redneck country, logger country, you know.
Totally.
But yeah, but originally we started these Wake and Bakes. I can't remember 5-6 years ago, and the first one was at Silver Falls Park. And the funny thing is that the guy that came up with the idea in the first place got so paranoid he didn't even come to the event. And it turned out to be all for naught. But what happened was one of our friends put the information on our website, and when he did, he put down the contact information for the park ranger and said, if you have any information, need any information, call this number. Well, he meant for reservations and for camping at the park, not for the event. So anyway, the guy that organized it was all paranoid, and he just knew there was going to be a Fed behind every bush, so he didn't even go. And it turned out to be a great event. The park ranger, when she came around to collect the fee, she noticed some of the posters that one of our guys put up, and she wanted to know all about medical marijuana. So she ended up staying in camp for an hour talking about medical marijuana and was all supportive of it. So anyway, you never know where you're going to get the support, but that's the Wake and Bake. So if you get to attend that, I recommend it highly. It's a great time, great people, so again, that's May 30th through June 3rd, and that's the Mercy Centers. Go to mercycenters.org, or you can send an email to dankbagman at Hotmail, and I'll get the information to you. So anyway, so I wanted to say we want to mention that, and then got the Drug War Chronicle headlines. Run through these briefly. The harm reduction makes strides in North Carolina. After several years of laying the groundwork, North Carolina harm reductionists have successfully shepherded one bill through the legislature already this year. Another one sailed through the House this week. New York City, marijuana arrests are declining, but still sky high. New York arrested 50,000 people for small-time marijuana possession a couple of years ago. This year, the number looks to be around 30,000, thanks to changes in policy and heightened public scrutiny. Vermont marijuana decriminalization heads to the governor. Vermont is about to become the 17th state to either decriminalize or legalize marijuana. Medical marijuana update, the feds stay on the attack in California, and fallout from last year's state Supreme Court decision allowing local dispensary bans mounts. There's news from other states as well. The Colorado legislature passed sentencing reform. Colorado has taken another step down the path of drug sentencing reform with the passage of Senate Bill 250. The governor expected to sign it into law. So that's just some of the things that are happening around the state.
Things are moving. Things are starting to get the ball starting to roll. So it's really
definitely.
nice.
And then we still got the government trying to still dragging us back. The story here is the IRS war on medical marijuana providers. And you wanted to talk some about this, Eric?
Yeah, you know, a lot of times when people see these raids on TV, they see the DEA and sometimes the ATF and some of the local law enforcement drug teams and such. One of the organizations that's not always as obvious to people is the IRS. And this is a big problem with dispensaries and other types of resource centers that are popping up in medical marijuana states, is that the IRS is using a tactic that was designed to originally go after the big cocaine and kingpin dealers in the early 80s. What happened with that is a dealer was able to successfully write off the things he had bought with his drug money as business expenses, and obviously, you know, that shouldn't be allowed to happen. And so they constructed the Section 280E of the tax code, and what this does is this prevents people who are involved in illegal and illicit trade to use the items that they've purchased or used for their trade as tax exempt. So what they've done now, fast forward, 30 years, no one back then when this was issued, when this was designed, thought there would be medical marijuana dispensaries and things like that. And also at the time, this is the Reagan administration, and Ronald Reagan once famously said that marijuana was one of the most deadly, if not the most deadliest substances on the face of earth known to mankind. And this was at the time when crack cocaine was getting out of control, and this is what the majority thinking was. And so what happens is what happened with Harborside in 2011 is these are organizations and dispensaries that want to pay taxes, want to have employees, want to pay all the local, federal, and state taxes that any normal business will have. They're not allowed to. And then what happened in the case of Harborside is they got slapped with a back taxes bill for over $2 million. And what happens is if this is for any business, if you get slapped with a back tax bill and you can't pay it, you got to shut down your business. You cannot no longer operate. So this is a really sneaky backdoor tactic that they have employed where, let's be honest, this does not apply to medical marijuana dispensaries. The way this was written in 280E, Section 280 of the tax code was written, it was designed for drug dealers, kingpins, especially people trying to, like in the instance of this 1982 decision, this drug dealer was trying to claim yachts, weapons, even bribes, business bribes he had gotten. He tried to claim these, and he was able to win. So obviously, in cases like that, they need to rewrite the rules. But people need to understand that this is, again, another tactic that is an overreach by our government. I mean, let's be honest. If people are going to open up dispensaries out in the open, bring in employees to hire, pay their taxes, these aren't exactly people that are trying to skirt the law, and that's exactly what this Section 280E was designed for, to try to prevent people who are breaking the law from skirting the law. Now, I know people will say it's still a federal offense, but let's be honest with what the difference, if we can't see the difference between a medical marijuana provider and a drug dealer, I think we really need to reevaluate our priorities and where we are in our society. It's not that hard to see the difference, let's be honest. And another thing that people need to understand too is think of all the all the resources that go into this. At the time that Harborside, this is another instance. This is Oaksterdam. When Oaksterdam University was raided in Oakland, it was on the news. There was all kinds of protests. You saw people from the DEA, the IRS. That same day, in another part of the city, there was a shooting at a university. A guy went onto a campus. It was a small private university. It didn't get a whole lot of news, but what did happen was that resources that were directed to shutting down Oaksterdam University were late in getting over to the response to this shooting that was at this university. And because of all the hoopla that was garnered around the shutting down of Oaksterdam, there was people in the streets blocking cop cars, and it was a huge, dramatic event. This shooting that happened at this university kind of went unnoticed. And one of the arguments and one of the biggest things that people were upset about was, why were they wasting all these resources? And if you saw this footage, you can go to YouTube and find all these things, I was told there was over 30 agents from all different kinds, local police, the DEA, the ATF, the IRS. So the main point of what this is getting at is this is an incredible waste of resources. Right now, especially here in Lane County, we have all these measures in Eugene about, we have no money to keep people in jail. Well, you know what they do? They seem to have an endless amount of money to keep people who are growing and using marijuana in jail. It doesn't seem to be a problem with that. You don't notice that they're letting all these people out. And it seems that the government has said, when it comes to marijuana, we've got all the money. When it comes to child pornography, assault, rape, burglary, you know what? You're on your own. And,
We've heard of a lot of our friends have talked about it, that the Lane County Jail is they do not treat marijuana prisoners very well.
No, and again, when you see these things come up in stories like this, it's a waste of resources is the biggest complaint. They should go after drug dealers that are using their finances illegally and trying to claim things. That's exactly the point of this. So remember, guys, when you see these stories, remember where our money's going. You need to get out there and vote. That's
right. So, appreciate it, Eric. Thanks for being here tonight. You got DanK, and we're going to wrap it up for tonight, and we'll be back next week, 7:30, Monday night, be at Sheldon High School.
I'm Thomas Paine for pot, and it's 4:20 time. And we don't know where exactly the numbers 420 came from, but it now means three very critical things for not just our marijuana movement, but for the whole socio-political movement that has got to take place. But 420 now means three things especially to us. And number one, like I said, it's now our badge of revolution, because simply all of our rights basically have been taken away, that our founding fathers shed their blood and their family and their whole life for their posterity so that we could enjoy the freedoms that they fought for. So the American experiment officially ended when the Bush CIA dictatorship, it officially ended when they cheated Bush into office, not just for one term, but for 2 terms for the highest office in the land. Cheated his way in, and there's no doubt about it. And thirdly, every major social and government change in the laws have required direct civil action on our parts. We are apathetic people. We have looked at what Bush and that regime did on 9/11 and Halliburton's contracts over in the Middle East. They're draining our economy. The war is giving no revenue to us, just spend, spend, spend. So we don't have money for social programs. We don't have money for education. So when you look at the movements, the civil rights, the anti-Vietnam War movement, the ecology movement, we're going to have one that's going to possibly dwarf all 3 of those movements. And the ecology movement, Earth Day, was the biggest one movement in the history of the human experience. So what we've got ahead of us is very tough, but it's based on sound moral principles that we were given in our Declaration of Independence. They said we have to go to war, or at least revolt big time. In the second paragraph of our most sacred document, it states, we hold these truths to be self-evident. Sorry, a little. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and granted by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, birthrights, can't take them away from us. Our right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we all know that smoking marijuana with our friends is certainly a pleasurable means for happiness, which is one of the basic, God-given rights that our Creator gave us. And liberty, the freedom of choice. These are our natural rights as our founding fathers saw them. And getting back to reading this, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, it goes on to say, any government that becomes destructive of those ends, our rights to equality, life, liberty, and happiness, must either be altered or abolished. Okay? So our document, number 101, says that we've got to either alter or abolish this government. And I say we just demand the reinstatements and invoke our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution and declare an end to the Iraq-Afghani war and an end domestically here in our own country, the drug war. We've got to end it. Our moral values that our founding fathers gave us are as precious as can be. And when they're taken away, which they have been, it's time for us to do like all other major movements that people have made throughout time, and that is we got to get together, everybody, with a firm set of morals by just bringing our founding definitions back, and everybody, let's take it to the streets and demand our rights.